Picture this, a city where the clock hands stopped turning, where children's laughter echoes through empty hallways, and abandoned teddy bears gather dust by windowsills. Welcome back to Is This Real? Today, we're walking through the haunting streets of Pripyat, a place frozen in 1986. You might hear a carnival song carried by the wind, but the Ferris wheel hasn't turned in decades. The city's 50,000 residents left in a hurry, leaving behind their lives, their memories, and their futures. Some say time doesn't exist here anymore, just the whispers of a Soviet dream that vanished in a nuclear heartbeat. Stay with us as we unravel the chilling story of the city that nature reclaimed, where the past refuses to fade away.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Is This Real? Episode 2 of...
Is this real?
Oh, I forgot.
You stepped on him.
I apologize. It's been a minute since we've had Mr. West, and when Mr. West is here, you know Pope Tony gets excited about doing the Is This Real also. So, okay. So, Mr. West is here. Say hello, Mr. West. Your first episode, season 15.
Hello, Mr. West.
And we are back. Well, not back in the booth. We're not in the booth just yet. Still little remakes happening, but the heat is up and everything like that. Let's give a little nod to everybody. We do have Pope Tony with us. Pope Tony, say hello. And, of course, we do have Big Joe. You heard Big Joe. Big Joe, say hello.
Hello.
So, for our second episode of this Abandoned Places season, we are talking about Pripyat, Chernobyl, and the disaster nuclear meltdown that happened there. But we are also talking about stuff that happened after, and the years. How long has been since the meltdown? 86, right?
Yeah, 86. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking almost 40 years since the meltdown at Chernobyl, and there's been some things that have happened that people have discovered, or not really discovered, but maybe, we don't know what is actually there as far as ghosts, if there are ghosts there. I do have questions this week, but Dad, since you're the only one that was alive when this meltdown happened.
I don't know if I like this, but go ahead.
Just explain your remembrance of the day and everything like that.
What I remember.
Were you spooked that the Russians were going to nuke us?
No, what more concerned was the.
Did you crap your
that was
pants?
going on. Yeah, well, it was kind of concerning because now you're talking like 1986. We're in the middle of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. You know, both countries were in the middle of mutually assured destruction. So we were arming ourselves. We armed ourselves. We armed everybody. And we were going really crazy. And then when this thing happened, everybody took notice because the fallout was as far as Switzerland. Okay. And that's how actually it was detected, because they were lying about it. They didn't let anybody know about it. Immediately after
this was during Soviet times, though, right?
So, yeah, it's 1986. Khrushchev, I'm sorry. What the hell was his name? Tear down the wall. What the hell was his name?
Reagan? Gorbachev.
No. I forgot his name. Anyway,
was it Gorbachev?
Gorbachev. You know, I mean, and he didn't want to let let them be vulnerable as to the rest of the world what was going on. But it was very serious. I mean, they lost hundreds of people that were actually crawling through the place. And then when they did reach the public, they had no choice but to abandon the city up upon the river Pripyat, and the name of the town was Pripyat. And they took everybody, said, "You'll be back in a couple of days," whatever. And they never went back. The city is now abandoned. They left behind their everything. I mean, you can go there now. You can get a special pass from the government. It's actually in the Ukraine, and it's the only way you can visit it for a certain amount of time. You can do your research. I mean, like Joey said in the opener, there's a lot of ghost hunting going on, and there's a ton of stuff going on there. There are some people that refuse to leave, and they seem to be okay. But right now, I think the shelf life of that town is somewhere like 230 years where it's actually going to be radioactive. That's basically I remember when it happened. I remember the cover up, and I remember how it really set the world basically on fire. That nobody trusts the Russians anyway, and this made it even worse.
Well, I do have questions, like I have had last week when we were talking about the.
Bless you.
Mhm.
About the what?
You're offline. There you go. There you go.
Do you hear me? Am I
Yep.
good?
Hello.
All right. Am I coming from this mic though?
That's
Yes.
good. I hear you.
Okay. Stupid thing. So the questions I have, we're going to talk about conspiracy theory questions first with this place, because this is the first time I believe we're talking about Chernobyl, right? Am I correct on that one?
I think we
No.
brought it up before in the past, but I don't know if we've done like a full episode on it.
Yeah. So I know the abandoned places that we're talking about this year have a lot of ghost stuff happening, but there's also some topics that are going to get like conspiracy theory treatment. This is one of them. So I do have a couple conspiracy theory questions for you guys, and then I have ghost and paranormal questions. So we'll start with the conspiracy theory ones first, right off the bat. And this is one that I've seen throughout a lot of the internet while doing the research. It was the Chernobyl disaster a calculated sacrifice for scientific advancement? And for this, it says, could the Soviet leaders have intentionally let the reactor fail to study the long-term effects of radiation on humans and the environment? I'll let Anthony go first, and we'll go round table with that.
Yeah.
That's a hefty accusation. That's a
So the first question was if we think it was done on purpose.
Yeah, basically, as an experiment by Russian leaders to see the effects, and that's a very heavy-handed accusation. I mean, is there anything that supports that theory? Any documents that have come out that supposedly
potatoes?
leaked from the Kremlin or something like that? Is there anything like that, or is that just theory? Because if it's just theory with nothing to substantiate that claim, I don't think that's I don't think that's true. I can't see anybody doing something on that scale as an experiment. Like, if you're going to attack a group of people, or if you're going to cause a disaster, it's going to have an implication that is going to be in your favor. Meaning you're going to be using it to get what you want. Similar to how Hitler attacked the Reichstag, Dad, if I'm remembering correctly?
Yeah, when Hitler blew up the Reichstag.
Right, so like Hitler blew up the Reichstag, as the theories go, 9/11 could have been used as a way to get it. You know what I mean? Like, to say that there's a group of scientists somewhere
Bitch,
up
don't
in
step
the
on my
Russian,
computer.
I don't know. I can't see that. I really just can't see that.
All right. Mr. West, do you want to tackle this question next, or do you want Dad to go?
So on surface level, the deep conspiracist and I guess the nihilist in me wouldn't put it past Soviets to do something like that. Just given especially some of the experiments that I've found before back then of what they were doing in World War II. So I wouldn't put it past it. But the only reason I would say it wasn't done on purpose is because Soviet infrastructure is it probably sounds controversial, but I'll bet that Soviet infrastructure probably wasn't the best. Something that I'm just briefly looking into. It says that there were some things that happened that it was just a poorly designed experiment when the thing first happened. That's why I just put it more towards the infrastructure of it. So 50-50. I'm on the fence about it.
Right, Dad?
I tend to agree with actually both Pope Tony and Eric at this point. And the reason I say that is I do believe that they were in the middle of a self-test as far as testing the facility. Do I believe that it was done to test nuclear fallout and stuff? There is absolutely, as far as I know, there's zero evidence, documentation, anything. Now, again, anything is possible. So I don't know, but I can tell you this much. Judging what Wes said, that there is. I mean, this is the Soviets we're talking about now. The Soviet Union. Was it an experimentation that gone bad? Did it got? They started out as a test, but then it got out of hand. I can see that happening. But as far as nuclear fallout, that's too dangerous a task to put out there, because like I said, they didn't detect this. They didn't come clean until the nuclear fallout hit Switzerland, and that's not exactly around the corner. So I I'm not quite on the fence. I'm leaning towards the other way. It was an experiment to see how the reactors would react, quote unquote. But as far as a conspiracy that they tried to, no, you're not going to do that because you're annihilating. This is a thing you could annihilate millions of people here.
Well, there was apparently scientists that did predict the disaster of happening. And I'm talking years before it happened. And the second question I have is, why do you guys think some scientists did predict that disaster years before it happened? Were there warning signs that were ignored? And if so, was it negligence, or do you think it was something more sinister or more, I'm guessing, more to play?
I'd argue that scientists were probably aware of the dangers that could happen if things are neglected, and it's bound to happen at some point. We're human. We get cocky. We think that our technology is the best, that we can keep up with everything happening all at once. I'd argue that it wasn't like a forewarning of the future, more so like, hey, like, you have a very powerful thing that you're dealing with, and things could go wrong really quick if things aren't kept in check. That's more so what I think is what that is.
Everybody in agreement with that? Anything more to add?
Yeah, I'm gonna, like, there's the line in the movie Oppenheimer that I think he was talking to Matt Damon, and he goes, well, this experiment's either gonna work or we're gonna set the world on fire. And Matt Damon was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, there is a, like, 0.0 whatever % chance that when we detonate the bomb, it's gonna, do something to the ionosphere, set the atmosphere on fire, and it would cause, like, worldwide devastation. Right. They still took the chance and blew the bomb because the chance of that happening was so insignificant. But my point is, scientists, it's their job to look and try and find every single avenue of a possibility. Even if it's the most bleakest, most 1 in a trillion chance, the fact that mathematically there is a chance that it could happen, they have to be aware of it, or they have to do their best to make themselves aware of it or discover that that's even possible. So, yeah, I think I'm in agreement with West, because it's I think scientists don't predict the future. Scientists are the ones who did all the specialized testing to sit there and say, hey, these are all the possible outcomes. Have fun with it, chances are whatever, but it's not them being prophets. That's by, prophecies by something divine, right? The God or something has to put that knowledge into you. This is just possibilities based off of all of the things that are available at their, like at their fingertips, as far as materials and mathematics and all the possible avenues of what could happen. It's not the same thing. So, no, I don't think they're predicting anything. They're just saying that this, you're playing with fire. There's a chance you might get burned. It isn't guaranteed, but because fire is hot, it can burn you. That's what it's more like.
Dad, anything?
I agree with both of them. I think, again, we're going to go back to, this is the Soviet Union. If there was a chance that this was going to be devastating to the world, or put them in a bad light, shall we say, I don't think they would have taken that chance. Now, from what I read and from what I studied, it was an experiment. It wasn't an experiment. It was a test. They got to go through self-tests. Like Anthony just said, you got to keep learning, and you're not going to learn how the reactor is going to react until you push it or you put it in certain phases. However, we're not talking about top grade scientists here. They were smart enough to create this, but they were nowhere near as smart as our scientists. And look what happened to us at 3 Mile Island. So even with the brightest of minds, this is a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot. We got one down the shore, Oyster Creek. We got literally 70 miles from here. If that thing decides to leak or whatever, we're pretty much, we're in trouble. And I'm not talking about an explosion. If that ever rocked, you got out, and you're wiping out Philadelphia. You're wiping out. You're going to go down as far as, not so much Baltimore, but you're going to go down as far as Maryland, or Delaware.
Yeah.
And then it might even impact. You're going maritime. Forget it. You're 2 miles from the ocean, and you're sitting on a bay, Barnegat Bay.
It would definitely impact the city.
It would definitely impact New York City. To what point, we don't know. Now, again, with Pripyat, it got so bad. With the brightest minds that came together around the world, still couldn't stop it. So what they did was they built a sarcophagus around it of concrete, steel, to try to keep the radioactive material and the radiation in. And it's still getting out. Not at record numbers anymore, talking 40 years, but you're not going to find too many people that are going to volunteer to walk through that thing at night or at any time.
You bring up an interesting point. It's like we didn't have. You said that they didn't have the best scientists, or I don't think it's that. I think it's like they were doing things secondhand, right? Things that the United States was doing and was proving to work. So, like, I think that's what it comes down to a lot with, especially stuff during the Cold War. If they were doing it, we were trying to do it. If we were doing it, they were trying to do it. And I think sometimes you wind up with things where it's like you steal the blueprints and try to build the car yourself, but for whatever reason, it's just not as good. Even though you're fully capable of understanding how to build this thing based off the blueprints and what have you. I think it's closer to that. And I don't know if it's changed or not, because look at what we're doing right now with AI. Like, we have ChatGPT. It's billions and billions of dollars are going towards that to refund it. And yet China did Deep Search, or whatever it's called, their AI, for like $1 million. Like, absolutely dirt cheap, and it's doing the same thing. So I don't know if it's a technological thing now that it's different, or if it's just that you're talking about like the best technology, but of course of 50 years ago when they were building it. And how that really isn't the best technology anymore, even in that sector. It's interesting.
It is very interesting. I mean, there are definitely more sinister things that have happened, apparently. I mean, the more you get deeper into the history of Pripyat and the history of Chernobyl. But apparently, there's been reports that...
as the great Shane Gillis would say, those fuckers did some dirt on both sides, man.
Yeah. Apparently there's been some vanishings.
He's brilliant, y'all. Just to plug that in. Shane Gillis, you're great.
So the next question is, why do some people reports claim that people vanished in the immediate aftermath of disaster? Beyond the known fatalities, could there be unaccounted for individuals whose disappearance were covered up?
Yeah.
High profile people? Like high-profile people? That's possible.
Well, I don't know about high-profile, but there has been a number of disappearances, vanishings of people that they were here one day, and after the disaster happened, no one has accounted for them since.
Yeah. Well, think about it, dude. It's gonna sound really fucked up, but like if some shit goes down like that, and I work for like some fucking underground rig, I'm fucking kidnapping or going through the roofs, bro. Nobody cares about what's going on there. People are scared.
Bingo.
Yep. I also think, I mean, reportedly it's 3,940 people have died, are casualties of Chernobyl. And that includes everyone who is sick, who's developed cancer since then, who have died of it. That's a lot of people. But if you could definitely throw in those numbers of people gone missing, because I think it's like, when disaster strikes and everything's in chaos, some people drop dead or just like get pulverized or whatever, and just like
pulverized is crazy.
You never
pulverized is crazy.
They disappeared. They're just gone. But who's to say that they just didn't fall somewhere like in a cavern or something, running away and never to be seen again, or like.
It's Ukraine, not Iraq. Dude.
No, I understand that, but like on 9/11, like certain bodies were never found. Do you understand why? Because of what happened, their bodies were just vaporized. Like it's like the billionaire assholes who
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
So it's it's like they're missing, quote unquote. No, they died there. It's just that we can't attribute to it because it happened that it just happened in such a way where they wound up in a place that there can't be accounted for. We just don't know.
So
records
at
the time.
It was a fire.
They were very good at just fudging numbers, so it wasn't as bad. I wouldn't put it past them.
So you think that the vanished, quote unquote, like Endgame style, just in the dust?
My opinion on something like that was, look, when you were dealing with the likes of the Soviet Union, Pripyat was actually the town that was there for the workers to live in. Okay. So now when you had workers that were off and they were sleeping and the bells go off and then when they're loading the buses to get these people out of there, they're calling in everybody that works at at the reactor. You work there. This is the Soviet Union. You're coming with me. Your family will be fine. You'll see them in a couple of days. These are most likely the people we're talking about here that have gone missing, because they're the ones that you would have accounted for. People's families are not going to account for it. And in a situation like that, when you're moving this many people this quickly, you know what? You're not going to worry about where you're not going to get an accurate number. So it's not like somebody was there checking them off, Igor Skavinsky or whatever, shout out to Igor. But the point I'm trying to make is you're not going to worry about the little people. Who knows how many of them died? They left there kind of quickly. When they got to the new destination, they probably said, fuck it, I'm not going back, and scattered all over Russia. And you're going to think they're missing. However, the people that we can account for, that we know are missing, I'll guarantee you, if you check, they're going to be scientists. They're going to be people that worked at Chernobyl. They're going to be people, that were living there because of the power plant and had to go back and lend their services to the cause because, again, Russia was doing their best to keep this quiet.
Yeah.
And again, that's just an opinion of mine. That's all that is.
All right. The last three questions I have for this, it goes from reasonable to crazy to even more crazy. Well, the last one may not be even more crazy.
On this show?
But I already know what Anthony's reaction to the last two questions are going to be, because he's going to roll his eyes because he doesn't like these type of questions.
Oh,
maybe
goody.
the second one. But the first one is, do we think that the Soviet government attempted to weaponize radiation? Could the explosion have been linked to a failed experiment designed to create radiation-resistant soldiers or enhanced human abilities?
No. If you're going to create... No, I'll tell you why. Because if your goal is to create radiation-proof soldiers, you don't blow up the fucking power plant to do that. You take Sergei and Ivanov and Igor and you put them in a bunker and you shoot them up with all sorts of shit, and you watch them through like 8 inches of like reinforced glass, and then if they drop dead, you know it didn't work, because that's the way
Trying to turn these niggas into the Hulk?
Exactly. Like, you don't blow up the nuclear reactor that you spend money on to see maybe what if we get a Marvel character. That doesn't work that way.
Something that I was looking at in this said that this thing, it happened due to like a few mistakes, and the first one happens to be that it says that some technicians entered this unit 4, and it seems like there were some rods that they took out in a poorly designed experiment. So that's where it does.
What happened?
That's where it does lead into if this was purposeful, on purpose.
There are definitely some questions.
If it was on purpose, it was at the idea of an individual who had some sort of an agenda, who had access, some rogue scientist who thought that maybe fucking with nuclear radiation or whatever is not the way to go, and this must be stopped. He was an environmentalist, and he put that into play. That's the only thing I could think of. But do we have any at all evidence pointing in that direction that we had a real scientist who wanted to make a power play? And I don't think we do. So,
well, I mean, the only thing, right now I'm reading off Britannica. Disaster occurred 26th of April 86 when technicians at Reactor Unit 4 attempted a poorly designed experiment. Workers shut down the reactor's power regulating system and its emergency safety systems, and they withdrew most of the control rods from its core while allowing the reactor to continue running at 7% power. So these mistakes were compounded by others, and at 1:23 a.m., the chain reaction happened where some explosions went off, and pretty much it blew off the steel and concrete lid of the reactor, where all that radiation just dumped into the atmosphere. Reading off that does kind of sound a little sketchy. What was this poorly designed experiment, and why did they withdraw most of these control rods and allow this thing to run under 10% of power?
They're probably fucking with something to see, like they probably had an experiment to do it, and then they fucked the experiment up. And it just like, and then as they're trying to fix it, they're fucking it up even worse. So like every step they try to do to mitigate what just happened makes the problem worse until complete failure.
I think the experiment basically was born out of the disaster itself. It's not like something that they started doing that. I think once they saw that they couldn't get a handle on the reactor, and they went on for about a good hour and a half before they could get their handle on what was going on, and figured, you know what, this is going to go anyway. Let's try one more thing, and I think that was born out of that. I mean, again, I could be wrong, but I think the only reason they did that because it was like a last-ditch effort. Let's try something to stop this. And as far as the Russians using this as a way to make a soldier or a way to use, there's no way, because that would draw attention. What it did was it drew attention to the world's attention on them.
Motherfucker was trying to make Captain America.
Well, when you're trying to build something like that, or you're not telling the other people what you're doing, hence, the Nevada desert. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Area 51, Dad. Just say Area 51.
Well, Area 51. That's where we do all our stuff.
Well, you got drones flying over you.
Area 51's the cover up. They're on to Area 52 right now. No. Okay. So the next question.
I want to be higher than Area 69.
I
Area
love
70. One finger in the ass.
I love these questions because it pisses Anthony off.
Lovely.
Ready? I'm gonna have Anthony go last. Dad, we'll go with you first because you do believe in this type of stuff. Could Pripyat be a hotspot for interdimensional activity?
Excuse me. So wait, say that. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Could Pripyat be a hotspot for interdimensional activity? Some physicists suggest radiation could weaken the fabric of reality. So could Chernobyl be a place where strange phenomena bleed through?
Honestly, I'm going to give you
I wouldn't say it's impossible, improbable, very, very unlikely. Whatever that physicist is smoking, I want it. Other than that, that's where I stand with that one. That was some
Dad?
that whoever sold him that was some real top notch shit. This nigga said radiation can bend the fabric of time. What?
Right,
What?
Dad?
You might as well have Fetty Wap pulling up in the JBL speaker with that shit.
It's so good to have him here. It really is. Son of a bitch, I missed this. Anyway, I'm going to do my best, Anthony. What the fuck? Are you crazy? No, it's not. I don't believe that at all. I can't say it's not possible. Some of the weird shit that does go on. But no, I don't think there was never any reports that before the.
Wait, hold on, wait. You're going to tell me that you don't believe that there could be weakened spots in the fabric of reality if you want to sit there?
You asked about Pripyat.
No, I know that, but I'm saying because you have places like fucking the Bermuda Triangle, which last season we did talk about.
That's about.
And then you have places like. And then you have places like on your TV show at the ranch where they believe
Ranch,
where there is a hole.
You said Pripyat.
I know. Okay.
Thank you.
You want to change that? I don't believe. I don't. It's not that I don't believe. I have not heard any evidence of this. I have not heard any stories of this. Only wacky stories I heard about this is when I tried to watch the movie Chernobyl, which was the dumbest fucking movie since The Incubus. Okay, so
the found footage film.
Yeah, it was like this. It was. I mean, I was really into it. It was nice. They filmed it in certain spots of Pripyat, but the last 3 minutes, I don't want to give it away, but the last 3 minutes were the most fucked up 3 minutes of any cinematic ever.
Well,
it just totally blew the whole movie.
I'm not saying that it is because you're right. There is no evidence, but what I'm saying is, could there be something just because this disaster? All right, because you do have quote unquote.
It could.
Yeah, weakened spots of reality, if you will.
That good shit.
Okay,
there's never.
Dad's waiting for the puff of fucking smoke to come by his face.
Yeah, man, I missed that shit, bro.
There are no weakened spots in reality. That's not proven. It's a wonderful theory
That you know of.
It's a wonderful
How the fuck
theory.
can you prove that? How the fuck can you tell? You the fuck can you prove that, bro?
It's a wonderful theory, but we have not encountered anything like that for real that we can test and say that this is something we can do a controlled experiment on and validate that it's a wonderful theory, but there's no hard evidence to support it whatsoever. And you're going to tell me that this theory that is a 1 in a billion chance just happens to be at this site where the nuclear reactor is? Bullshit.
Or the nuclear reactor caused it.
No.
The chances of us being alive right now are 1 in a trillion. So that 1 in a billion is nothing. Put your ass up real quick for a second, didn't I?
No, I lost internet connection actually.
All right. This will be the last question for this half. All right. So, why do some former workers claim that there were creatures inside Reactor 4 before the explosion? A few chilling reports from the plant workers before the meltdown describe sighting of something inhuman in the restricted zones.
I'd have to see where those reports are coming from, just to see if I even want to believe it, because that sounds like something written out of like the Sun tabloid or like the National Enquirer. Like you would have like Bat Boy on page 1, page 2 is some woman who sold her dog to an alien, and then page 3 like mystery demon spotted in Chernobyl reactor 4 before meltdown.
Well, they're saying this was before the meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think something like that would have been documented?
How convenient.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they're saying these are reports. If they're reports, then they've been documented.
Well, I've not heard that at all. I mean, to be honest with you, and I think I'm pretty schooled on this, but I mean, maybe some stuff slipped by me. But first of all,
hold up. Now that shit got my attention. Hold up. So,
it makes
Wes, look it up. Wes is gonna look it up.
Reports of what was a shadow figure?
No, inhuman, I don't know, creatures inside reactor 4.
Creature.
The only thing
reactor
that I'm pulling up as far as curious creatures of Chernobyl is the Chernobyl frogs, and it's because of the radiation. They are now more greener than they were before the radiation. Like that's a real thing. Like because it's
Are you sure the frogs are not gay?
It could be. I don't know. I don't know. But like because of the exclusion zone, wildlife has flourished. And there are like animals that have been affected by radiation and plant life, and that is a definite thing that you can study and document. There's tons of reports on that stuff. I don't know.
The chickens that are walking around have 3 legs and they lay 7-pound eggs. I mean, come on.
You know, if we sold 7-pound eggs in America, maybe you buy like 1 egg and you could use it over a week, and then they don't have to be $10 a carton.
You ain't shit.
Nah, that wouldn't work, bro. That wouldn't work.
You
have to refrigerate too much yolk. It won't. That's not possible. That's not good.
Know,
that's
man.
not good. That's not good for your health, bro.
I don't know if the chickens are on fucking strike or whatever, but at an 18-pack at ShopRite was $11.
They're on sick leave. That's what they are.
What the fuck?
I can build a coop. I just need 3 chickens. That's all I need. 3 chickens. I'll name them Larisha, and Curly, and they can have all the eggs I want.
This is why we lose people so much. Anywho, all right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with some paranormal questions about Chernobyl and Pripyat. But thank you guys for listening to our bullshit when it comes to the conspiracy theories. So we'll be right back. Here's some of our own commercials, not any more sponsors. We will be right back.
Hey, fellow truth seekers. Want to take your love for the Is This Real podcast to the next level? Check out our exclusive merchandise line designed for curious minds like yours in mind. From comfy tees and hoodies to stylish mugs and accessories, our merchandise is the best way for you to show your passion for unraveling the mysteries of the fucking universe. Visit our online store at isthisrealpc.com and gear up to explore the universe in style. Don't just listen, wear your curiosity with pride with Is This Real podcast merchandise.
Hey there, fellow truth seekers. Are you ready to dive deep into the mysteries of the universe? Look no further than isthisrealpc.com, your one-stop destination for all things mysterious and unexplained. From captivating podcast episodes to thought-provoking articles, our website is packed with fascinating content that will leave you questioning reality. Visit isthisrealpc.com today and join our community of curious minds as we explore the unknown together. Don't just wonder, discover the truth today at isthisrealpc.com.
And welcome back to our Pripyat episode, or Pripyat Chernobyl episode. In the first half, we talked about conspiracy theories, a couple conspiracy theories we had about Chernobyl. And this second half, we're going to be talking about paranormal and ghostly events that have happened at Chernobyl. The first question I have here is not really ghostly. It's very, what's the word I'm trying to find here? When you're looking over your life and thinking about things like that. What
reflection?
Something like that. So if energy cannot be destroyed, what happened to the souls of those who died at Chernobyl?
They went to heaven or hell.
Could the intense trauma and sudden deaths have trapped spirits in the never-ending loop of suffering?
It depends on who you talk to.
Sure.
Look, again, souls or ghosts, are a matter of belief. To the skeptic, there's never enough proof. To the believer,
you don't need any.
To over evidence. Now, having said that, There has been reports of different strange occurrences happening in the hotels, or not the hotels, the buildings that were once housed the people, apartment buildings. There's been rumored that one of them, I forgot which one it was overwhelmed with spiritual activity. Now, are they there? I was never there. I can't tell you yes or no. Destination Unknown went there and they did some crazy shit. There was a lot of shadow figures, a lot of stuff that they caught. You can choose to believe it or not. That's fine. However, I think that's the evidence that you're looking for. And don't forget, when people die in a situation like they were dying, they're going to go back to the places that are most familiar. So,
But quick question, but
Maybe.
wouldn't it, like, so if people are reporting ghosts and stuff like that, are these people that are getting too close to active areas that they're not supposed to be in, and they're probably seeing shit?
you can go to Pripyat today. You can tour the city. You have a time limit. The radiation is still there. You're handed a button on your lapel, and that registers the radiation.
It's a Geiger
If
counter.
it gets a certain thing, right? It'll go off at a certain time. There's certain parts of that area. The closer you get to the reactor, obviously, if you get to the other side of the Pripyat River, there's going to be more.
The Bridge of Death.
Right. So now I think that people that have been there, I mean, there's television shows that have gone there. Like I said, Destination Unknown was there. There's been other places. Josh the Explorer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's on YouTube.
I know Dora.
He's got some.
She got deported.
3 million. Okay. He's been there. He's documented some stuff. So it happens. If people are documenting it, then it's up to you to choose to believe it or not. But do I believe that there's spiritual activity in Pripyat? Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
I mean it's not unnatural or unheard. Well, what's wrong with y'all?
Nothing.
It's not that unheard of. Like, I mean, think about it. Like, if these spirits or things of that nature are drawn to like huge events of negativity and stuff like that, it would make sense that an entire town that was buzzing full of life just like completely like, you know what I mean?
These two motherfuckers got something going on here.
No.
I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what you're talking about. I know that one of the theories that if someone were to be suddenly killed and they weren't even aware, like a horrific accident, like they catch a stray bullet or piano falls on someone's head, like there's no notice that they're going to die. Like there's a theory that says that because they weren't aware of it, their spirit remains here. You know what I mean? Like, cause it's going about its day.
I can see that.
You know what I mean? There's also obviously the idea
like it's not accepting the fact that it's dead.
Right. There's that too. Like it is aware that it's dead. It doesn't accept that because it happened so tragically. That's those are theories. And if people died suddenly at Chernobyl because of this accident, I could see a spirit hanging around if that was true. I don't know.
Yeah, but the reports, but the reports are but the reports vary because I'm only seeing that officially only 2 people died, kill confirmed type
immediately,
shit,
right?
And immediately, but then it's going from it's ranging from 2 to 50 people that could have died off that initial explosion that happened. So it's anywhere from that range. So, but it's not. I can't sit here and say an entire town is just haunted by 50 spirits. That doesn't sound right.
Right. It's
we
don't understand how this works. So anything's possible, but what's plausible?
I can understand that, but at the same time, when you're looking at the time frame and now post disaster, you're almost 40 years past the,
More don't go to sleep.
Happening.
Yeah.
So you have people who have died from, I guarantee thousands have died from radiation poisoning. You have people who were there just of old age who might have passed away. So you have it's such a tragic event, and we've said this in post episodes where the heightened emotions and heightened feelings can draw spirits to a certain place. If you want to believe that.
Like there's a bunch of dead fucks floating around, like, what's that over there? Let's go there. That makes no sense. Because that defies everything we think we understand about ghosts. Like they haunt certain spots because it was important to them. Like they don't get fucking sucked over to a different spot because it's like, died there. Let me get in on the party. I don't think that doesn't make sense to me.
I don't think it's to the fact to where it's like, oh, more people died there. You have people who left their homes suddenly, who had things of sentimental value that they left behind.
Mhm.
It's not a thing of, well, let me just go there because that's the way. They still had their own shit left there
You know
that
what?
they just left.
You know what? I would venture to say, if it's plausible that people who died in fighting the fire and died initial experiment, if their ghosts went back to their apartments to haunt their apartments, I would like to see a follow-up study to see how many people claimed paranormal activity when a direct relative was involved in 9/11. How many people claimed paranormal activity when, because their son was stationed in Pearl Harbor? If there's a correlation between those things, like you could die somewhere but then haunt the place that was closest to you, and you have to...
I'm coming for that ass if that's the case.
It's like you have to think that they have to travel. How does
Time
that
out.
work in the spiritual
Time out.
world? You know
Time
what I mean?
out.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
Shut up, Anthony.
Okay.
Did you just say you're coming for our asses if you pass away? That means you feel more sentimental towards us than anything.
I will haunt the shit out of your house. There's already your grandpa already there. It's a party at that point.
Fucking Wes is saying I fell asleep in the corner of that couch. That's where I'm fucking staying, right there.
And they're gonna be like, I feel something is just laying here, sleeping.
And then I come over for dinner, and all of a sudden, I feel something kick my face. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Nothing. It's just the spirit.
I've been Muay Thai by a spirit.
But no, I do think there can be ghost haunting sentimental things. It's not in the fact. It's what do you call objects that are haunted? They follow that particular object. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That's different because it's latched into that object. So it has no choice but to go wherever that object goes.
Yeah, and also I don't think there are spirits attached to an object. It's demonic at that point, isn't it? It's not like, Timmy's trapped in the coffee can.
No, there are ghosts that are attached to objects. There and again, you could sit there and say yes or no, and if you don't believe it, but there has been not proof, obviously. You can't use the word proof when it comes to ghosts.
That's
but,
true.
There has been cases of animal spirits being attached to a certain thing that is with their owner. That has happened. There are cases that has happened like that too.
Those pets? Or are you talking about pets detecting something spiritual about their owner?
Ghost pets.
That's stupid.
It's not stupid. It's
I've never
the
heard
afterlife.
of that. I've never heard of ghost pets.
You never watched the fucking Animal Planet TV show with the ghosts? It's the same shit.
I don't believe it. I think all dogs go to heaven, and that's it.
All right, I'm going to clarify this up a little bit here.
He's not going to heaven, though.
As the dog barks in the background. He wants to be heard. Hey, man.
That dog's going to hell.
Anyway, there have been reports of animals being influenced by spirits. You're not going to get any. I've never heard a report of an animal being possessed.
No. I'm not saying that. We're not saying that. We're talking about actual animal ghosts. The ghost of my cat. The ghost of Fluffy.
Okay, I have heard of that. I've heard of different. That can happen. I don't never.
You hear a bark. You hear a bark in your house, and you're like, what is it? What was it? Jasper? What was the dog's name?
No, Jasper. You would hear a thump in the door, and that would be Jasper because he can't see.
Yeah, if the coffee table suddenly shifted an inch to the right, and you heard a thump and an oof. The ghost of Jasper is here.
But yeah, okay. Let's get on to the next question because I have maybe two or three couple more questions. All right. Shut up? That was my uncle. That was the ghost of my uncle talking through me. Why do visitors report seeing shadow figures moving through the ruins of Pripyat? Are these ghosts of former residents, something created by radiation, or hallucinations induced by lingering toxins?
I think that before you start speaking, because you're already visiting a place that already has an eerie, haunting presence to it, I feel like your mind is just fucking with you at that point.
It's the Gryffindor. Why do people see spooky shit? Because people want to see spooky shit, and they lie.
That's 6 for this year so far.
That's why.
Okay.
I'm going to a place that is famous. Major accident. It's abandoned. Of course you're going to see spooky shit. You're looking for spooky shit.
That's Anthony's whole take on this season, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't exist. It's in your mind.
No.
It doesn't exist.
So then what about
famous? It's abandoned, and you want to see it there.
See, this is a very specific thing for this season because when you're like, oh, that house is haunted. I'm like, Okay, and then like you just get evidence and like there's reports. I'm like, that's probably haunted. I will give that because why?
There's evidence of fucking. There's video shadow figures in fucking Pripyat.
Why? Because that house is not special. And like it's more like, okay, that's being affected by a thing, but it's not special. No one's going to that house looking for shit until you claim that it is haunted. But if you just move in, you're like, something spooky's going around here, I can believe that. When you go to somewhere like Pripyat, you're looking for it. And if you're looking for it, you're gonna find it, especially when you have an agenda, like making a YouTube video that's monetized or shit like that.
Okay,
Dad, please.
Wait a minute, hold on a minute. So, Anthony, your whole take on this now is, if you're looking for it, you will find it. You're going to tell me that?
Yeah, I'll take
if you're, yeah, because there's a reason why. There's a reason why you're looking for it.
Okay, you might be looking for it, but what are you finding?
What?
You're looking for it, but what are you finding?
That's exactly, okay, that's the question, isn't it? If someone says, look, I found something and I have it documented somehow, that's different. That's something physical. Like I think it was the show you mentioned, they caught something on a FLIR camera, which is infrared, which is like, why is that thing lighting up? Because it's standing over there in the apartment buildings. There's nobody over there. We know it's abandoned, and yet there's a heat signature. That's physical evidence. I can't argue that, and I will not argue that.
Okay.
But when you get people who, like, go there, and they film a bunch of shit, and they're like, well, you can almost see something. It's very ambiguous. And they're like, no, we felt something while we were there. I don't believe a fucking word they're saying.
All right. I can understand that because that is, again, that's not documentation. That's hearsay.
Right.
We got to approach this as we would approach anything like in court. You need hard evidence.
Bingo.
Now, if you have a shadow figure, that's fine. I got a question.
Show me a picture of the shadow figure. Show me the infrared. Show me something.
There was a quote in a famous movie, Law Abiding Citizen. It's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove.
That's true too.
Exactly. Now, let me ask you a question. Would you at any given time walk through the museum with Ed and Lorraine Warren? If they said to you, go in there, would you go anywhere in that museum by yourself?
By myself?
Right.
That's loud as
You know
fuck.
what? Yeah, I think I could. But I would do it specifically. My hands are in my pockets. I'm getting close to things to like read inscriptions. Like if they have a little plaque, like this is what this thing is. I'm not reading the voodoo off of some pocket watch. I don't want to even look at like, oh, a voodoo thing. Moving on. Like I will be there like the ambiance. Yeah, I would like to see it. But like I said, I'm doing it like my hands in my pockets, and I'm not there to upset or disrupt anything. I just want to observe so I can have that firsthand experience. But if something were to happen in there to me, there is no way that I could prove that to anyone. I could come out and tell everybody, guys, I was touched, or like I felt something, and that would be
Who wants to
fine.
touch you?
I don't know, demons and shit, spooky things. And I could be like, guys, I felt this, but there is zero way to verify that
I'm going
I
in that
actually felt it.
museum. I will go in that museum as long as they tell me that I am allowed to bring my Beretta.
Like I would.
I don't care. I will feel a lot better knowing that it's there with me. Even if I don't hit anything, just dumping that thing is gonna feel good before it gets me.
Listen, like poke my head in the door. Listen, I'm not here to fuck with any of you. I'm here out of respect. I just want to.
But don't
look
fuck
at
with
you.
me.
Like,
Don't fuck with me.
If you don't want me to fuck with you, give me some sort of sign, and I will leave. Like this is. You have all my respect, oh spooky ones. And if I don't hear anything, I'm taking that as consent. And then hands are in my pockets. I'm looking out. I'm not even taking out my cell phone to take a picture of something because I'm afraid of what I'm going to catch in the photograph. And I'm like, I don't need that shit. So then I can leave. And
All right,
like, look, I did the spooky shit tour, and now I'm done.
Let's jump back onto the plane of Pripyat here. I do have 3 more questions, okay? We did talk about this during the break. Wes was reading the description of it. What do you guys think the truth is behind the Blackbird of Chernobyl? Was it a supernatural omen of doom, a creature drawn to radiation, or something the government has desperately tried to keep secret? Or just people's imagination?
Did the Mothman thing that happened in the United States happen near a power plant?
No.
Yeah,
Not
no.
in the U.S.
No, but the question
Nothing
is that they saw correlation is that they saw it. What was it in Virginia or some shit like that? And then some shit happened in a bridge or some crazy shit happened.
Yeah, the bridge collapsed after the Mothman, I think, flew under the bridge or something.
The correlation is that when you see the Mothman, some sort of catastrophe is going to happen.
Okay, then I don't believe it because there's catastrophes that happen all around the planet. and at any given point, someone could have said, I saw something, a demonic presence beforehand. That doesn't happen as often. That doesn't happen at all. Like, Mothman would be the only one that I could think of off the top of my head. But, like, we just had, like, 3 disasters this week with airplanes, and I haven't heard one report of someone saying they saw something demonic before it happened.
Again, you got to put that in the context. The same thing you would put in context with the one down in West Virginia at this point. You know, some people will swear by it. They've seen this thing. Some other people, they don't. So, you know, it depends on what you believe in. As far as this thing is going to fly over and cause doom or gloom or something's going to happen, what the fuck else is going to happen? I mean, seriously, think about it. What else is going to happen? The thing's already blown up. You already lost the town. I mean, you know, it doesn't make much sense. I think it just tells a story.
All right, calm down, girl.
So it says, so the United Nations states that officially 49 people died as a direct result of the Chernobyl incident, but 2,000 plus died from radiation poisoning.
Yeah, I think the official number is 940. Total casualties in some way are related to the disaster at Chernobyl. 39.
Here's something creepy that I've heard on the internet. Why do some people report hearing Soviet-era radio broadcasts in Pripyat? There are stories of explorers picking up old radio transmission on static-filled frequencies. Are these echoes from the past or something else?
Aren't those types of radio frequencies just like more like, I guess I don't know what the term for it is, like more analog, like more landline type thing, or
I mean, if it's
It depends on how. Go ahead.
No, they're definitely. I can see that happening, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're dealing with radiation, we as human beings, we have no idea what we're dealing with radiation. We have an idea.
Sure.
We can control it to a point.
You want some beef here?
But what we don't know is the full
capabilities.
Spectrum. And when you're on a spectrum, other than what Anthony's on, when you're on a spectrum, like
You want me to put the thing on you?
you know, you don't know what the frequencies can be. You just don't know. So, you know, is there any way that they could have been trapped there or whatever? Or could it be supernatural forces from the past? I don't know.
That reminded me of what fucking Josh did to Anthony when he just shut Anthony up.
Hey, it's not easy shutting Anthony up.
He was like, wait, hold on, Anthony. Hold on. It's like, shut up, Anthony. And then Josh continued to talk. Anthony, wait, what the fuck?
I remember that. That was a great moment.
Oh, God.
I don't know. See, when you said there have been stories, I'm like, oh, stories, it's right there. Like, I don't know. If like they have catching broadcasts from the ancient, like old Soviet recordings. Who knows why? Like, sound waves are a thing. Like, it's something that you can measure. They're tangible. They're real. We know that, like, you can send sound waves out into space, and they're traveling forever. Like radio
What would
waves,
be the good question for that?
Like radio waves are just going, right? And like you can measure where a radio wave is being picked up anywhere in the universe if you have the equipment there to measure it. It's just that it becomes so low, like the frequency gets so like low, it's hard to measure. But like,
just think, Anthony, because of the way waves travel like that, somewhere in the galaxy or a far off galaxy, I Love Lucy is running for the first time.
Exactly. Like to them, it's brand new. Like and it's very plausible that that's a thing. Like we can still communicate barely, but we can still communicate with the Voyager probes, and they are already almost out of our solar system. I think they're well out of our solar system, somewhere in the Oort belt, millions and millions of miles away. We can still communicate with them because of ultra low frequency radio waves. So who knows if we can, who knows what Russian place was playing an old show for some reason that got picked up. I think it's plausible, but I don't think it's anything spooky.
So I'm on a physics forum right now. The title is, Can There Be Old Radio Waves Broadcasted Years Ago by Traveling in Air? The guy that made the post asked this about 5 years ago. I was studying this radio receiver circuit. Then I read that radio waves broadcasted by radio stations will keep traveling in the air forever unless absorbed by something, and that radio waves can penetrate most things. I wonder that if some radio waves broadcasted some years ago are not absorbed by anything till now, can they still be traveling in the air now and be picked up by this radio circuit that we hear old broadcasted? The top answer is saying that radio waves in this particular radio were designed to receive, are prevented from escaping into space by the ionosphere, and hence bounce around between the Earth and the underside of the ionosphere. Each bounce dissipates some of the energy the radio wave uses, to the extent that after the third or fourth bounce, the radio wave signal is less than that of the background noise at the frequency and the signal disappears into the noise. This is true even for extremely powerful transmitted signals. This means that you cannot pick up old radio broadcasts from the past.
That's a lot of big words for Elmo.
Means it's not possible for, depending on how old
It
it
means
is,
by the
it's not
time it means
possible.
by the time that radio wave, you can pick it up today, the signal is going to be super freaking faint. If the reports say that they're hearing like crystal clear Soviet broadcast, then that's where it steps into that, I guess, paranormal territory.
Possible, not plausible.
But physically, but it's not probable. Yeah, just like what Tony said. Back to you.
Well, I mean, the last question I have, I could probably give you an answer for it already.
Science West.
But
right, this is a different.
The last question is: why do some people who visit Pripyat report seeing "quote unquote" living people inside abandoned buildings, only for them to vanish? Could
Because
there be
homelessness is a thing.
Echoes. That's exactly what my answer was going to be.
Because Pripyat in Ukraine is like Seattle in the United States. Homelessness
Everywhere. Yo, my nigga, that shit is bad out here, bro. The homelessness is bad. These motherfuckers be having shanty towns and everything, and I just think to myself, how do these motherfuckers allow this to happen? But whatever.
Government, bro. Government. But that's a different episode. Oh, God. I think that will be our... That's our episode for this week, gentlemen. Pripyat. Let's put the question here. Do you guys believe Pripyat's haunted or not? Let's ask to you guys. Do you think Pripyat's haunted?
believe that the nuclear meltdown did really happen. Yes.
Thank you.
I think anywhere on Earth is capable of being haunted. Why would Pripyat be the exception? If it's haunted, it's haunted. If it isn't, it isn't. I can tell you this, I'm not getting on a plane and flying my fat ass over there. If I want to visit Pripyat, I could play Modern Warfare 2. It's the best level. I could watch Chernobyl on HBO. It was a great series.
You can be young Captain Price firing that shot into whatever Victor Reznov, bro. You can do that. Dragunov, exactly.
All right, Dad.
Fuck that.
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Anthony said. I do believe you're going to have spirits there. I don't have any question that there would be spirits, a hotbed for spiritual activity. Just because souls might be lost, they don't know where they're going. They're wandering the landscape. They've been ripped from their bodies suddenly. You've had people that have died terrible deaths that have chose to stay around. What are you waving at me for?
I'm waving out his cat.
And people that have stayed around have died. People died horrible deaths.
So pretty.
What a beautiful kitty. And yeah, I do believe that.
I hope anybody listening is like watching the video and Dad says, "What a pretty kitty." We're looking at a cat here, everybody. We're looking at a cat.
We're not looking at vagina. It is an actual feline.
All right. Next week's episode, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the Island of the Dolls, which
no.
Kind of self-explanatory.
That's gonna be a short-ass episode.
I forgot. Have we ever talked about that haunted island in Italy?
Yes, we did, and we are talking about it again this year, this season more in depth though. So okay. we there are a couple episodes you're gonna see this season that we have touched, and not in like Pope Tony touches. Like we've touched on it a little bit. Throughout the seasons, but we're getting more in depth with these episodes and more, doing more of is this real? Like what we've been doing this past 2 weeks, asking questions about this place, even though Anthony doesn't like some of the questions. So,
well, good thing it's not Anthony's show. I'm allowed to not like questions. Don't let me defeat it.
Shut the fuck up. So next week, everybody, we are talking about the Island of the Dolls, and we will be back in the booth next week.
Except for me.
Except for West. West will not be in the booth next week.
For a while.
We might get him when our sister gets married in October. So we don't know if we're actually doing an episode that week or not.
And that episode will debut in 2026.
So who knows? Who knows when you'll see?
Save your calendars.
Save your calendars, y'all.
But all right, everybody. See you next week for the Island of the Dolls. Everybody say goodnight.
Adios, motherfuckers.
West, it was great. It was great being with you tonight. Loved every minute of it, kid.
Love you guys.
Love
you too, Wes. Remember, everybody, question everything. Good night.
That's me.
All right. I will stop.